The Australian Parliament have called on British officials and the judge to release Julian Assange due to the rapid spread of coronavirus among the prison population and the workers at Belmarsh Prison, where Assange is being held 23 and a half hours a day in a solitary confinement cell. Last night, journalist Vaughn Smith said Assange contacted him and shared some more insight into what's really happening at Belmarsh, contradictory to what little the tight-lipped prison officials are saying. Joining in on this conversation now, former UK MP and friend of Julian Assange, George Galloway. So, George, Julian told Mr. Smith that the Prison Governors Association is considering releasing more than 15,000 nonviolent prisoners. The Department of Justice is considering some 4,000 people, but Julian is not on any of those lists, even though the Aussie Parliament is now calling for his release on humanitarian terms, maybe suggesting home arrest with an ankle monitor. To all of this, you say what?
Well, there's no argument against this. It's incredible that it is not even on the table for discussion, never mind agreement. He could have a tag on. He could go to a nominated address. They could stick 2 cops on an 8-hour shift, 3 shifts. It'll still cost them much less than it's costing them to keep him in Belmarsh. There literally is no logical argument against that. And as he told our friend Vaughn Smith from the Frontline Club, one of Britain's eminent journalists, although he himself does not yet have coronavirus, he's surrounded by people who do. And he exercises for 30 minutes just a day. That's all the time that he's out of his cell. He's surrounded by hundreds of other prisoners, many of whom undoubtedly have got this virus. So it comes back to the point that I've been making. If Julian Assange, an unconvicted man, cannot be released to home detention when hardened, convicted criminals are, this is a level of discrimination and bias that can only lead you ineluctably to conclude that they want Julian to get coronavirus 19. They want Julian to die. They want, I say on Good Friday, to wash their hands of this troublesome priest. It's a very, very ugly story, Manila.
Yeah, George, this is just incredible. When you hear the level and the numbers of people that they're considering letting out, and Julian, as you said, and we should underscore, he is not convicted yet of anything, and he won't even be allowed to be on an ankle monitor at a private location outside of Belmarsh. It's unbelievable. And Julian is contradicting what Belmarsh officials are saying about the spread of coronavirus. He believes there are much more deaths within the inmate population than the one official count, possibly 2 that people are entertaining, and that the virus was, quote, ripping through the prison, is what Julian said. Why are the UK Department of Justice not investigating these claims?
Well, not for the first time. Julian is telling the truth and the officials are lying. That's, in a way, the whole point of Julian Assange. As it happens, I have very close contacts with the Prison Officers Association of the prison staffs, and I can tell you that coronavirus is ripping through Belmarsh Prison and many other prisons too. And they are as concerned about that as we, who are concerned about the prisoner, Julian Assange, are. Because it's their members that are going down like flies. 150 of their members in Belmarsh Prison are in self-isolation. And that's the staff. What about the prisoners?
Yeah.
It is incredible. There's no PPE, there's no masks, there's no gloves, there's no separation possible in a jail. It's mass murder waiting to happen.
And George, lastly, critics of this situation are now comparing the UK justice system to that of Iran now, citing that the newly released Mrs. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, because of COVID-19, she is now out. Having been a member of parliament for so many years, how do you take that comparison? I imagine this is supposed to be a slight.
It's deeply humiliating. It's a sad day when the prisons in Iran are being emptied of prisoners, including someone they claim is a British spy, Nazanin Ratcliffe. And she's now been released on humanitarian grounds for fear of her contracting coronavirus. But the British will not release Julian Assange, their political prisoner. The Australian Parliament spoke out with great courage and clarion clarity in the last 24 hours, but you can't find a single person, not a single person in the British Parliament that will raise their voice, making the kind of demands that I'm doing now here on your show. So not only are our prisons shaming themselves in relation to the Iranian, so is our Parliament shaming itself in relation to our old friends in Australia.
That is absolutely the best last word for today, George. George Galloway, always appreciate your take. Thank you.